Dragon Ball as a series is mainly known for having high stakes action and lots of fight, but I think the series is underrated in terms of its writing and its way of handling character arcs, and I think that Piccolo might arguably have one of, if not the greatest character arc in Dragon Ball. Starting as one of the major villains as the Demon King, all the way to becoming one of Goku's greatest allies, Piccolo's entire journey was compelling and rich. Every transformation and fusion that Piccolo undertakes each plays an important role in his character arc, and Orange Piccolo from the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie was the perfect combination of his journey, and I'm going to go into more depth of why that is. So this video is going to be a deep dive analysis into the character arc of one of Dragon Ball's most well written characters, Piccolo. So with Piccolo's character journey, it involves overcoming hatred, self-discovery, and finding purpose. And the best way to start things off is by looking at the nameless Namekian before getting to Piccolo, because the nameless Namekian plays a very important role in this. The nameless Namekian was sent to Earth from Namek in order to survive from a great cataclysm that occurred on Namek, and the nameless Namekian grew up on Earth by himself with no parents or any friends, because he was the only Namekian that was sent to Earth. He lived all alone in the Yonzabe Heights, not knowing who he is, where he came from, or what even his own name is. He lacked identity and a sense of purpose because he never found a parental figure when he was sent to Earth. He never knew the feelings of compassion and love in the same way that Goku did when he met Grandpa Gohan. The only thing that the nameless Namekian clung to was his spaceship. That was his home, and he used to stay there in hopes that someone would come and find him. But after all of that waiting, no one came for him, so he decided to leave his home and explore the world in hopes of searching for his identity. But as he was exploring the Earth, from his experiences with the people on Earth, his pure heart became tainted by humanity. And this becomes to be very important later on. And during his adulthood, the nameless Namekian heard about the role of being the guardian of Earth. He saw that position because he had a sense of duty to want to protect and watch over the very planet he grew up on, and sees as his home planet. Becoming the new guardian of Earth would help him find purpose. However, because his heart was tainted by the evil of humanity, he was unfit for the position, so he decided to split himself into two beings, one that is pure good and one that is pure evil. That is how King Piccolo came to be. And with King Piccolo, because he is pure evil, he lived through causing terror and the suffering of others. King Piccolo was the first major villain in Dragon Ball to actually bring a lot of tension to the series. From being responsible for the deaths of Chaozu, Krillin and Master Roshi, King Piccolo became one of the most impactful villains in Dragon Ball. Creating chaos and terror is what gave the Demon King his purpose. His cruelty is what defines him. Everything the Demon King values and represents is a direct opposite of Kami. Kami is the new guardian of Earth, so he seeks to protect and preserve life, whereas Piccolo seeks to terrorize and cause human suffering. So with the nameless Namekian lacking identity and purpose, he splits himself into two beings, both that have a purpose and have names, but they were both still mortal enemies, and there was not yet closure between them. Then moving on to the defeat of King Piccolo by Goku, he spit out an egg to reincarnate himself in hopes that his son would carry out his revenge and carry on the legacy of the Demon King Piccolo. And that is how Piccolo Jr. was born. Piccolo Jr. was born out of revenge, and that was how he lived his life. He was born to hate and kill Goku for killing his father, and he planned to terrorize the Earth just like his father did. And because he was the reincarnation of the Demon King, everything that Piccolo Jr. did was pretty much in the name of the Demon King. So Piccolo Jr. thought that he was the same as his father and not his own person. But something was different about him. He wasn't as sadistic or as evil as his father was. He was more than just a reincarnated son of Piccolo Daimao. He was his own person with his own individuality. This was shown during the Saiyan saga when Piccolo agreed to work together with Goku against Raditz, even though Goku and Piccolo were enemies before that. And even after Goku's death, in preparation for the Saiyan's invasion, Piccolo decided to train the son of his greatest enemy, son Gohan. This again is something that Piccolo Daimao never would have done. And normally, back then, whenever the Demon King Piccolo and his demon clansmen would kill someone, that person's soul would not pass over to the other world. Instead, they would be trapped drifting in between heaven and earth. But when Piccolo killed Raditz, he passed over to the other world, showing that Piccolo Jr. is not like his father. He doesn't have as much evil in his heart compared to the Demon King and the other demon clansmen. And with the relationship between Gohan and Piccolo, this is where Piccolo starts to make a huge change. Initially, Piccolo only trained Gohan for him to become a strong warrior that would not only fight off the Saiyans, but for him to become one of his own demon clansmen. But as they spent time together training for the remaining 6 months, Gohan's kindness was starting to rub on Piccolo. Gohan was scared of him at the start, but he started to trust him more as time went on. This was pointed out in the conversation between them, where Gohan says that he and Goku think that Piccolo Jr. is not like his father. They no longer see him as the fearful demon king who thrives in destruction and the suffering of others. And this comes to light during Piccolo's sacrifice against Nappa in order to save Gohan. Gohan was the first person who showed Piccolo kindness and acceptance, and this was something that Piccolo never experienced, even back when he was the nameless Namekian, because he was all alone at the Yonzabe Heights. But Gohan was his first friend. He made Piccolo realize that he is different to his father, but his own person with his own identity. This is what pushes Piccolo to lay down his very life to save Gohan. And this is the point in Dragon Ball where Piccolo makes a great change in his character. He was born out of revenge to kill Goku and carry on his father's legacy, but instead, Piccolo lets go of his revenge, trains Goku's son to protect the Earth from the Saiyans, and thus King Piccolo's legacy dies along with him. So with Piccolo realizing that he is no longer like his old self, the introduction of the planet Namek was the next important stage of Piccolo's arc. Like I said before, the nameless Namekian had no recollection of his days when he lived on planet Namek before being sent to Earth. Earth was the only planet he knew, and where he considered to be his own home planet. Piccolo Jr. only saw himself as a Demon King's successor and nothing more. But after hearing about Nappa and Vegeta talking about planet Namek and their Dragon Balls, Piccolo finds out that there is more to his origin than he thought. And then when we fast forward to the scene where Piccolo is brought back to life and sent to planet Namek, we get the fusion between Piccolo and Nail. And with this fusion, it's more than just giving Piccolo a massive power boost. When Piccolo fuses with Nail, the last remaining warrior on Namek, Piccolo is now fused with the knowledge and the memories of Nail, who lived on Namek. And this was where Piccolo starts to discover more about his origins and where he came from. He started out as not really fighting for Namek, but to help Gohan and Krillin in the fight against Frieza. But then after fusing with Nail, Piccolo has now fully accepted his heritage and is also fighting for all of the Namekians that were slaughtered by Frieza and his men. And notice how Piccolo was initially hesitant to fusing with Nail, because he was afraid of losing his individuality if he fused with Nail, because that is the one thing that Piccolo treasures most. He doesn't want to lose himself in exchange for more power. So after discovering his own sense of individuality different to his father, Piccolo has also accepted his origins and where he came from. He has now begun to fight for other people other than himself, which shows a huge change to his character compared to how he was first introduced in the story. And then in the Cell Saga, we see more of Piccolo's development and what might be his best character moment in all of Dragon Ball, and I'm talking about his fusion with Kami. Piccolo and Kami are both polar opposites. They were both created from the nameless Namekian splitting himself into two beings, so the two of them never got along and always refused to rejoin with each other, even though fusing together would grant them so much power. Because if they were to fuse, one of them would lose identity, and instead act as a catalyst for the other to gain power. But because Piccolo is no longer the evil Demon King, has fought to protect the Earth and has accepted his heritage as a Namekian, Kami agreed to fuse with Piccolo, but he let Piccolo be the one to act as the base. And this leads to the long-awaited fusion between Kami and Piccolo, bringing back the nameless Namekian, but this time, because Piccolo now has a sense of duty to protect the Earth and now fights for others, he keeps his name. The nameless Namekian, who once forgot his name and his origins, has given himself a name, Piccolo. This is a full circle moment for the characters of Kami, Piccolo, and the nameless Namekian, making this one of Piccolo's greatest moments in Dragon Ball. This was more than just a power-up, just like with Nail. This union granted Piccolo vast knowledge from Kami, and also restored the lost identity that the nameless Namekian was searching for. Piccolo is no longer the Demon King, his successor, or Kami. He has finally found himself. And throughout the rest of Dragon Ball Z, we see Piccolo as more of a mentor type of character, instead of someone who is just trying to become the strongest. We see him become a mentor to Goten and Trunks during their fusion dance training, and he was also there for Dende when he became the new Guardian of Earth, because of Kami's knowledge of being the Guardian of Earth being transferred over to Piccolo after the fusion. Piccolo has now become more than just a Namekian warrior. He has gained so much wisdom and became one of the smartest characters in Dragon Ball. And even during Dragon Ball Super, especially in the superhero movie, Piccolo still plays the teacher role when it came to Gohan and his daughter Pan. He reminds Gohan that even though Goku and Vegeta are the ones training and protecting the Earth, Gohan also had to realize that he should still be strong enough to protect those he cares about. And Piccolo trains Pan in martial arts, Not to make her as one of his demon clansmen like he did with Gohan in the Saiyan saga, but instead to train her as someone who would one day be one of the Earth's protectors, since she is part of the next generation. And then with Orange Piccolo, this form serves as the end of Piccolo's character arc and wraps up everything perfectly. Even though it wasn't planned during the days of Toriyama writing the manga, I love how this form was the conclusion to Piccolo's journey. This form came from Shenron unlocking his potential and giving him a little extra power. And this little extra was Piccolo's reward for not only being the Earth's protector for a long time, but also because of him reuniting with Kami to becoming the nameless Namekian that now has a sense of identity. The Dragon Balls originally came from the planet Namek because of the members of the Dragon Clan having the ability to create a set of Dragon Balls. So there was already a connection between Shenron, who was created by Kami, and Piccolo, who united with Kami to become whole again. That is why Orange Piccolo has a predominantly orange colour, because that is the same colour as the Dragon Balls, which have a deep connection to the Namekians, which is Piccolo's heritage. So just like with Piccolo fused with Kami, Orange Piccolo is more than just a power-up. It's the reward of Piccolo's character development and his self-discovery. It is the culmination of Piccolo's journey of newly restored identity, accepted heritage, and newfound purpose. And that is the character arc of Piccolo. A long and satisfying journey of finding purpose and identity. His development and new experiences constantly builds on from the last. From his days as the nameless Namekian with no purpose or identity, to becoming the Demon King who thought that power exists to dominate and cause terror for others. In the 23rd martial arts tournament, he becomes Piccolo Jr. born out of revenge. In the Saiyan saga, he learns to become more independent, lets go of revenge, and sacrifices his life for another person. In the Frieza saga, he discovers and accepts his true heritage as a Namekian. In the Cell saga, he reclaims his lost identity after reuniting with Kami. In the Buu saga and Dragon Ball Super, he becomes more of a mentor and a guardian. And then in the superhero movie, which is Piccolo's movie, he achieves his own unique transformation that is the culmination of his entire journey. It's one of the most emotionally satisfying character arcs in Dragon Ball, and it's no surprise why Piccolo is such a beloved character in the community. And I am glad that before Akira Toriyama passed, the last movie that he worked on for Dragon Ball managed to completely wrap up the journey of his favorite character. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys enjoyed this video and would like to see more anime content, please like, comment and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1000 subscribers by the end of this year, so I would really appreciate if you guys could subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.